Fear is here for your growth. Now, a long, long time ago, no, just kidding. Not that long ago, I was someone who had a lot more fear in my body as well as my mind. And I wanted to make this video about the fact that fear is here for growth. Because even though that statement may indeed perhaps even sicken you, as it once did me, because frankly, I'd heard it a lot and I was like, listen, I understand that. And also fear feels yucky. So why are we often, facing that? So what I want to say is this, just to emphasize, I suppose, the learning, which I have now integrated more into my system. Anything that we are afraid of, more than likely, and we're not talking about like the extreme circumstances where maybe there is, an animal, you're in some kind of actual danger. Most of the time, we as humans in our blessed lives are not dealing with things that are so serious as mortal danger. And what I want to share about is what one of my mentors says often is, let the triggers be your guides. And what they mean is, a lot of the time what happens with us as humans is that when we are afraid of something, even if that thing, and I actually recently did a video about this too, even if we're afraid of this thing and it's a good thing, like we know that this is going to cause us to grow, we often tend to avoid it and to be afraid of it. The thing is, here's the magic of fear, if you will allow it in your life. I used to be afraid of fear. That's funny, right? Genuinely. I simply would not, this is old me, I used to not be the kind of person who would do things that made me afraid, very intentionally. And at some point, within the recent past, I learned or discovered that instead, we can use our fear as a fuel. Initially, when you come up against fear, it's scary. You feel it physically in your body. It does things to us physically. However, what I'd invite you into is, as you may have heard people say, to lean in to that fear. What does that mean? That means rather than, let's use the example of a nightmare. In a nightmare, you come across a scary monster. What's the natural instinct? To turn and hightail your butt the other way. Shoo! What it would mean to actually use your fear as fuel is, instead of running from the monster, when you see the monster this time, you stand and say, hey, what's up, pal? How you doing? Maybe don't say that verbatim. You face it. Now, of course, if you're like me, not that long ago, and even sometimes still, then that is terrifying. You're like, Emily, why? Why would I stand there shaking in my boots and like face this thing? It's horrifying. I don't want to feel that. And I understand. And also, what I can now share from having the experiences I've had recently is that when we face our fears, that's when the magical growth actually happens. I mean, as humans, what I've noticed is that we will do almost anything to avoid that scary thing, whatever it is. And the real beauty, and I sincerely mean this, and there was a time when I would have rolled my eyes and been like, yeah, sure, at this. There's real beauty, because when you get into it and you actually then finally face that thing, think of anything you've ever faced as a challenge before. It was scary, and it was maybe even difficult at first, and maybe in the going through with it, whatever, you were really, really terrified. We'll use me as an example. Back in the day, I mean, I am still technically afraid of heights. However, I have conquered that fear. So let's use previous me. I was so scared of heights once upon a time, and we went on a school trip, and there was a construction, that's all I know to call it. There will not be pictures anywhere of this. Our task, if you will, for this camp that we went to was to, on this particular day or whatever, this is what I remember, was to climb this construction. Now, again, I've mentioned I was afraid of heights. This was literally the scariest thing I had done in my life at that point. And as I was physically climbing up this structure, I was physically shaking the entire time. And I genuinely felt, and if you happen to have panic attacks, you will probably relate with this, I was shaking the whole time, very physically and very literally. And I felt like as if then I was going to die. I'm sharing that because what do you imagine happened? Well, thankfully, this story has a good ending. What happened was I struggled through with that fear, and that's the point I'm making here. And the fear is actually magical growth thing. when you get through to the other side of whatever thing it was that was scaring you, it is one of the best feelings in the world. And the sense of relief and the sense of achievement that you will feel by doing whatever it is that was terrifying to you. And again, I'm saying this with caution, use your discretion. Don't do anything unsafe to some extent, because we often feel that our safety is threatened when in actual physical fact, nothing is threatened safety-wise, often. Now, again, I'm saying those other situations notwithstanding. So I wanted to invite you to allow those things that may indeed terrify you, to, I guess, encourage you to get out of your comfort zone little by little, to sort of nudge out of your box a little bit in the morning, whenever, little bit at a time is what I was trying to say. Let's say you're in a little bitty square box, you start to poke out that way and see what does that feel like out there? And oh, what's down here? Seriously though, to play with your world, that's a very strange saying. Play with your world. And I invite you, because I spent a long time, the reason I wanted to share this video and I was feeling so impassioned particularly about it, is that even a word? Impassioned? It is now. Is because what I've been doing a lot of recently is facing these fears, and it's been scary. And it has at times, quite honestly, literally made me sick to face some of the things that I've been facing lately. And that's not always big scary things, like life-threatening type stuff. Sometimes that's just stuff like doing something that you really don't want to do that you know you need to do. In my case, that can cause a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. And by leaning into actually doing these things, what I'm finding, comically enough, is more relief. I wanted to invite you to essentially utilize your fear as your fuel, because as strange as it may seem, the minute that we kind of flip the script on fear, and I recently heard someone else talk about essentially this concept, is that you can use this as something to positively fuel yourself and your creative cycle. It's a strange idea at first. Let it marinate and maybe you'll understand where I'm getting at with that. And I want to also share this quote with you. And it's, again, shared with me by a mentor. And the phrase or whatever is, you can have faith or fear, and you can choose trust or trauma. So essentially the saying is faith over fear and trust over trauma. So what would it be a good idea to have? Faith and trust. So no matter how scary it can feel, understand that that really is where the magic lies. And I don't want to go on a whole tangent about the darkness and light, maybe in another video. So if this video has been of any help to you, please do share it with anyone that you think it could help. Subscribe, as it really helps out a small content creator like myself. And finally, if you need any support or coaching, reach out at this email address here, where I would be more than happy to serve you. So without further ado, have a beautiful and blessed rest of your day, and I will see you, beautiful cats, in the next video. Namaste and much love. Bye. Going through with it. Is that even a word? Impassioned? It is now. Shaking. So you start to poke out that way and see what does that feel like out there? And oh, what's down here? Before I leave you, is that when we face our fears, that's when the magical growth actually happens. Would it really be fun if you knew exactly what was going to happen every day?